Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to this video on modern JavaScript. Now, JavaScript has come a long way since its early days, and with ES6 and beyond, there has been some really cool um, improvements or addition to how we write JavaScript. Now, a lot of these are um, what I call syntactic sugar. So basically, there are just a better way of not really changing the functionality of the programming language. It's basically providing better syntax, right? So, and I really like most of the improvement on most of the syntax that were added, and I just want to share it with you. And maybe you've been seeing them in code bases and you really kind of like trying to understand what they are, especially if you started writing JavaScript from before ES6, right? I just want to point them out, or even if you've started writing JavaScript with ES6, but some of these syntax they kind of feel weird. So I just want in this video to kind of explain them and help you understand and why it's really cool. So what I would do is for each, I'll show you how you would do things traditionally, and then show you where each of these modern feature shines, right? Okay, so we're going to be looking at a list of them. Variable declarations, so using let and const is relatively modern. And then we talk about arrow function, which is a modern syntax for function for writing functions. And then we'll talk about template literals, which basically replaces string concatenation with the concatenation operator using plus. And then we talk about destructuring, which basically means um, unpacking individual elements of an array or attributes of an object into distinct variables. And then we'll talk about default parameters. We'll talk about rest and spread operators. We'll talk about optional chaining. We'll talk about knowledge coalescing operator, and then enhanced object literals. So these are um, there are others. There are other things like promises and modules, but I'll probably cover those in later video because they require some really background explanation which we may not cover in this single video. So for module and promises, probably talk about that in another video, but for now we're going to focus on what's on the screen. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to start with let and const. Now, for you to really follow along with this, you should already have some experience coding in JavaScript. And then if you don't have any experience coding in JavaScript, I do have a JavaScript playlist on this channel. I'm gonna leave a link to it, so that you can get to um, learn JavaScript from the scratch, right? Okay, so yeah, let's get started. So for variable declaration, traditionally you would declare variables using the var keyword. So if you wanted to declare a variable called let's say age, so you would say var age, and then you would say 30. Okay, so when you do console.log and you're gonna get save this. So the console.log age, I have to inspect, go to the console, clear the console, and okay, so it looks like we didn't do something right. So if you look at this, okay, we actually have index.js, which is our script file. Okay, it should be here. So you have 30. Okay, now the problem with this is if I try to access this variable before the point where I declared it, it's just gonna say undefined. Okay, so a more modern way to do this is to use let or const. So when you use let to declare a variable, now if I try to access it before it was declared, I'm gonna save this. Okay, hold on. Let age equals 30. Okay, so we get an error explicitly. We get an error. We don't get anything in the console because the previous one where we got undefined, undefined is a value, right? So basically, we get away with it, and somewhere along the line, it's going to cause error when we try to access the value in that variable because there's nothing there. But here, when you use let, it throws an error that stops the code execution. So it says uncaught reference error, cannot access age before initialization. So this is a lot better because you don't want to declare a variable and then um, you don't want to access a you don't want to have a variable that the value is potentially undefined, right? So if you want to, there are cases where you want to have a variable and the value is undefined, but that way you will have to explicitly do it. For instance, you can say um, let age undefined, or you just declare variable and not assign a value to it. By default it will be undefined. So if you try to console log age, you see it's gonna give you undefined. So you can, it says undefined. Okay, so so you prefer using let over var, so it's the same syntax, just change the keyword. So we can say let age and then you say 30. Okay, now another keyword that is related to the another modern way of doing variable is using const. So you could also say const name, or you say const first name and then it's John. Now what's the difference between let and const? So you use let when you have a variable that you are going to be reassigning value down the line in your code. um, you use const when you have a variable that you want to stay constant, you don't want to be able to reassign value. So this is what I mean. I can still come and say age and then it's 31. Okay, so this is allowed. I can console log age and then I see that it is now 31 if you look here, right? But I can do the same with name. I can say name, okay, first name, and then I say Jane, and it's gonna throw an error. But then let's just confirm that. So you see first name Jane, what do you think it's gonna happen? Now we get an error. We don't have anything in the console. Instead we get an error and then it says assignment to a constant variable. So again it throws an error. So by default you should always use const, but when you are absolutely sure that you want to have a variable that you will be reassigning values down the line in your code, then you use let. Okay, so yeah, that's that for let and const. This is the way to go when creating variables in modern JavaScript. Okay, so next we talk about, let's comment this guy out. So next we talk about arrow functions. Now traditionally, if you wanted to create a function, what you would do is to start with the function keyword and then you put the name of the function. So I think this guy is a little bit distracting. I have an extension that's doing this, but I thought I disabled it. So just give me a minute. I probably need to refresh. Um, I probably need to refresh this code editor to effect that. Just a moment. Alright, guys, welcome back. So if you wanted to declare functions traditionally, it's gonna look something like this. Let me make this bigger and close that. Okay, so you start with a function keyword, then the name of the function. So let's say I want to make a function that adds two numbers, and then you add the parentheses, then you add any parameters. So you can say a, b, and then you do a curly bracket for the function body, and then you just go a plus b, right? And then when you want to call the function, you just do add, and then you pass values for the parameters. So you have 4 and 5. Okay, so this is basically going to do 4 plus 5, and the answer should be 9. Okay, so now if we console log, or you know what, let's actually return the sum. So yep, so let's return the sum, and then we just console log this. We just do clg, and then we'll pass that. So if we check our console, we should get a number. Oh, it's not running. We need to restart this guy. Excuse me. Okay, so I can clear this, and okay, so if you look at this, it says 9. Okay, now this is the traditional way of creating variables, but then there is the arrow function. So the arrow function, basically you have a function expression, and then you assign an arrow function to it. Let's see how we can convert this to an arrow function. So you say const add, and then you add an equality symbol. This is not an equality symbol, this is an assignment operator. So you do equal, and then you put the parentheses that will hold the parameters, okay, a and b, and then you do the fat arrow. So basically you press the equal sign on your keyboard, and then you follow with the greater than sign, okay, just like that, and then you can have your curly bracket, which is kind of optional if there is just one line in the function body, right? So if there's just one line in the function body, you can skip this part. You can skip this part. Okay, but you know what? Let's just complete it. So here you can have the function body. I'll basically say this. Now we need to comment this guy out. So we save. So this is arrow function. So this is the traditional way of declaring function, and this is arrow function. Both of these are basically going to do the same. For instance, if I do console.log, and then I say add, and then I pass different parameters now. So I'm going to do 12 and 8. Okay, so and then save that. Gives me 20 because 12 plus 8 is 20. So this is our now to make this even more concise, we can get rid of the return statement. We can get rid of this guy, we can get rid of this guy, and we just have this. Just bring this on the same line. So you can have you can see this is still gonna work. If you check, we still get the same thing in our console, right? So we basically have an entire function on one line. Now this is working because we only had one line inside our function body. If we have multiple lines in our function body, of course, we are going to need the curly bracket. But this makes a lot of sense. So this is how you would use arrow function syntax, and honestly I kind of prefer it, although there are some things to note. There are some limitations to note when you use arrow functions. Okay, so it's not always exactly the same. Specifically, the context of this keyword when you use arrow function and when you use normal function declaration are not the same. Okay, so I'll probably explain more on that later. Apart from that, using arrow functions and normal function declaration, like the traditional way of doing function, pretty much the same. So it's totally up to you which one you use. So if you still prefer the old way of doing it, it's still fine. Just this gives you a better and cleaner syntax, and then of course you're able to understand code that use arrow function. So it's a good thing to know. All right, so next we talk about template literals. Okay, so template literals is one of my favorite, because it helps to manipulate strings that have dynamic content. Let's say, for instance, you know what? I'm gonna just leave this here. Okay, so template literal. So copy this. So let's say you have first name, and then first name is John, and then so let's say you want to have, I'm going to say console. Okay, let's have another variable called message, and that message is string. Now you want to greet John. Basically you want to say good morning John. So what you would do traditionally is to say good morning, and then you put a plus, and then you type the variable that references the name, the name John, right? So if you check this in the console, let's log message. So we'll do console.log message. So we're gonna get good morning John. This works. Maybe we should add a full stop. Get oh, okay, so if you want to add a full stop, you want to add a period, we will still also have to put that just like this, okay, because it's another string. Okay, so you see we get good morning John. Now this is how you would do it traditionally, but with template literal you don't have to do this. What you will have to do is you say const message, and then you start with a backtick. Okay, now a backtick is just the to get a backtick, you use the key just below the escape key. All right, I'm on Mac, and depending on your key, most keyboards actually have it structured like that, just the key directly below the escape key. Okay, so you have good morning, and then to inject the dynamic content, which is first name. The whole point of this is this can be different, right? So let's say you want to greet a logged in user. So maybe when John is logged in, you say good morning John. When someone else is logged in, you want to basically reference the first name of the logged in user. That's one of the use cases. So now to use template literal, you start with a dollar sign, and then you add curly brackets, and then you go ahead. Now this basically allows you to have JavaScript statement. So you can just put in this, and then you can jump out of the template literal and put your period. Okay, so this gives the same thing. Now it may look like this is, you know, kind of you're gonna appreciate this when you have lots of dynamic variables to add to a string, right? So but I like this a lot because I don't have to deal with plus and where to put space. So you're basically putting your string inside the template literal. You're not gonna don't need to jump out and add a plus sign. All you need is when you need a dynamic content in your string, you just add the money sign or the dollar sign, and then and then the curly bracket, and inside the curly bracket you put your dynamic parts of the string. Okay, so that's template literal. And next we'll talk about the structuring. This is another one that I like very well. So the structuring, basically, let me comment this guy out. So the structuring allows you to basically access individual elements of an array and then put it inside a variable. Let me explain. So put this here, the structuring. So let's say you have an array, const fruits, and that's an array of fruits. So first fruits, you have orange, you have mango, and then you have apple. Okay, so let's say you have these three elements in the array. Now you can use array destructuring to basically get out each of the elements of this array. So you can have something like const first, second equals fruits. Okay, so you can now do console.log and then you can have you can console log first, and then you can also console log second. So you can actually log out multiple things using the console log statement. Okay, so if we check in the console, and then we see we get mango, orange, and mango. Now basically what you've done is you've destructured the first element of this array into a variable and the second element into a different variable. Now these variable names can be whatever you choose. So you can say fruit1, and then you can say fruit2. It's just a variable name, just like when you declare a variable, you can pick any name of your choice. Okay, so if you check again, now first name and second name is going to give you undefined, like they're not there. So first name is not defined. So basically we change this to fruits1 and fruits2. Okay, so this is it. And then if you check again, you see mango and this. So basically each of this gets their own variable. You're basically unpacking the elements of the array into distinct variables. Now you can add another one. Let's call this fruits3, and that gives you of course we're not logging fruit3, so we'll add fruits3. Okay, so we'll have orange, mango, apple, and all that. Okay, so this makes a lot of sense. And like I said, rather than just, if you wanted another way to do this, maybe a traditional way to do this would be, you would say if you want to put each of these, you want to put orange in a variable, for instance, you can say const, or maybe the first element, you can say const first, fruits1. So I'm going to have to comment this out so that, and then you now say fruits, and then you select the first element, which is the element at index 0. Okay, so that way if you console log fruits1, you will get orange, hopefully. Okay, so you didn't get it. Why is that? Console log fruits. Did I make a mistake? Yes, of course I made an error. I made a typo. No, it's not there. What am I doing wrong? Const fruit1. Const the fruits. Okay, this is wrong. Oh, it's how I spelled fruits. Anyways, let's do this. Spelling is wrong, but it's fine. So you get orange. Okay, so let's just fix this. Should be U before I. Okay, this is fine. And then if you wanted to do that for mango, you would do the same thing, and then you do fruit 2, and then you would do 1, and then you did the same thing again for this, and then you say fruit 3, and then you say 2. Okay, so that's the traditional way to achieve the same thing, which is a lot of code. So you can achieve the same thing with just one single line of code, and just like this, and you have all the elements of the array destructured into their own separate variables, all in one single line. Okay, so I hope you can appreciate the beauty of using array destructuring. Now, it's not only arrays you can destructure, you can also destructure objects. And object destructuring is even more interesting, because let's say you have an object. Let's say you have an object. So you have a person's name. So a person object. Sorry. So you have user, and then you have an object literal. And then you have their first name, and their first name is John. And then let's say you have, let's make this span multiple lines. So their first name is John, their last name is Doe, and then their age is 30. Okay, so if you wanted to get out, just like we did with array, if you wanted to get out the value of each of the properties of the object, so you would say something like console.log, you can say const age. This is the traditional way, and then you say user dot age, and then you do the same for first name, then you say user dot first name, then you do the same for last name, then you say user dot last name. So you can do console.log age, first name, and last name. Okay, now this works, but I mean it's a lot of work. So you have 30 John Doe. Okay, so that's the age, the first name, and last name respectively as we are logging in the console. Now this is the traditional way to achieve this. Now the more modern way to achieve this is to use object destructuring, where you have age, and then you have first name, and then you have last name. I'm going to have to comment this out, because this is basically declaring variables and assigning these variables to the properties of this object. Okay, just like this. And then again, with just one single line of code, you achieve the same result. So basically this is it, the same result on one single line. So this is object destructuring, and I think it's really cool. Okay, so I think this video is already quite long. We still have rest and spread operator. can we still talk about that? Okay, this is quite a long video, so probably I'll pause this here and then we'll talk about the rest in another video. See you guys.